just been cleared by the tower for takeoff, and it's a display that starts straight from takeoff with a roll with undercarriage down in what we call the dirty configuration, therefore a stylish way to start the sequence by the French Air Force Dassault Aplha Jet E.
Charlie Sierra Hotel, thanks a lot.
Thank you later.
And here it is on the roll. So, just turning away from us after takeoff to capture then cleaning the aircraft up before we should be pulling into a half-Cuban manoeuvre before running in for the rest of his display. From the outset, the Aplha Jet was considered to be a very pleasant and docile aircraft to fly, very capable aerobatically. A number of years ago, I was speaking to the very sadly now late Dornier chief test pilot Dieter Thomas, who performed the first flight of a German Aplha Jet and gave many displays in the aeroplane at the big trade shows at the time, such as Paris and Farnborough. He thought the Aplha Jet was one of the nicest aircraft he ever flew in his career. Well, in fact, we're starting off with replaced the Lockheed T-33 of the Fouga Magister in French Air Force service, the Magister having been also the prior mount of the Patrouille de France team before the Aplha Jet came along. Also the Dassault Mystère for weapons training platform. In Germany, meanwhile, it was the Fiat G91R that the type mainly replaced. Germany decided not to take its pilot training in-house, but to continue to train them with the US Air Force.
And I think a really good example here of the big sky display I was trying to describe earlier on. Absolutely delightful. Almost a sort of swingboat style to all this. It flows really, really smoothly. Both slow and fast rolls during the course of each pass.
To let the chap down. No, you've got a taxiway, but he doesn't need to come up here. Scampton pass message.
Now watch this example of slow into fast, back into slow.
Absolutely beautifully flown by Capitaine Jean-Philippe Tanguy. He is an instructor on the École de l'Aviation de Chasse, the French Air Force fighter school, which based at Tours trains future fighter pilots and the backseaters, the weapons systems operators for both the Armée de l'Air and for the Belgian air component. In the French Air Force case, they move on from Tours to the operational conversion units for either the Mirage 2000 or the Rafale. And then a further 3 points.
Yeah, it takes a lot of dexterity actually. He's making this look incredibly simple, but of course every time you put a control input in, the aircraft will want to go off in a specific direction, whether it is either stick or rudder. So to keep it going in a straight line, you need to counteract that whilst going upside down. You also need to push in the opposite direction. what's making this thing look amazingly smooth and very, very straightforward. A lot of action going on inside the cockpit. Lots of variation to use what we call the 45. Now, most displays are made up on two axes, the A going left to right in front of you, essentially along the runway, another one going straight out in front of you, the B. But of course, to add variety, a lot of aircraft depart out on what we call the 45, so left and right of the B straight in front of you. Inverted again now, slowing down, pulling in the G, and now of course, unlike the good wing, once that gets up into beyond 5, 6 and 7, of course, then they still have to run to ground along with everybody else to ensure that that blood supply stays as much in the upper torso as is absolutely possible. Very little you can do about negative G, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do against that. It's just very painful, and hence most pilots do not sustain negative G for too long.
Intern, hold a point at runway 04, QC 986.
Generally, a manoeuvre that you see performed by far smaller light aerobatic aircraft, like the pits that we were watching earlier. But here we see one demonstrated in a twin-jet trainer.
Yeah, it is unusual, and I think back to many solo jet displays I've seen, and this one is a cut apart from your average, and making great use of the sky and variety. And you notice also the speed range, just changing speed. Well, he's going to do that again very, very shortly. Yeah, nice.
Very capable aeroplane, the Alpha Jet. It's still in use with the Belgian Air component, the Cameroon Air Force, the Egyptian Air Force, which uses them for ground attack, the Royal Moroccan Air Force, the Nigerian Air Force, which has recently been employing them as attack aircraft against Boko Haram, the Portuguese Air Force, the Qatar Emiri Air Force, the Royal Thai Air Force, and the Togo Air Force. Germany phased out its Alpha Jets after the end of the Cold War, and some of them went to Kinetic, the UK research and flight test organisation, where the Empire test pilot school is among the users. And there are a few civilian ones in the Europe as well. Ex-German aircraft are part of the Reynolds Flying Bulls fleet in Austria. Quite popular also now as platforms for defence contractors. The Canadian firm Discovery Air increasingly uses the Alpha Jet for that role.
And here a really good example of that speed variation, pulling up there into that, it wasn't quite a loop, but as he went inverted there, just slowing the whole aircraft down. And this sort of flexibility, extremely useful in training machines, of course, so as not to overawe the younger, newer pilots into landing aircraft too fast. Not quite a traditional high alpha pass, this a very, very slow pass nonetheless. When we refer to things like alpha, we're talking about the angle at which the wings meet the airflow in front of the aircraft. And as you slow down, you generally have to pull the stick back to maintain the altitude, and that means the wing angle is raised again. It's often up to 20 degrees or so. You'll see with the F-16 and the Typhoon a little later in the day.
So the undercarriage coming down, it looks like he's going to be coming in for a landing from our left rather than from our right, as has been the norm today.
Yes, well, we've got a very splendidly, pretty long runway, almost 9,000 feet available, and with a lightish wind at the moment, then the flexibility. He'd be absolutely delighted that we had the weather for that display as well. It was lovely chatting to him yesterday, and just know how much he enjoyed it. So we're going to go down with the undercarriage. It looks like a long pass. Quite an unusual format there. Many pilots throw objective there is to ensure that the speed of the aircraft is kept low enough to get below the maximum speed required to carry down. Many limits apply, flaps and so on and so forth, and helium wide. Now converting that speed into a final quantity.
Yes, we have ribbon diagrams for each of the aircraft. There were a few little variations in that sequence to what we have in front of us, but nonetheless, the fact remains that it's an absolutely beautiful demonstration, an aircraft that we're more used to seeing nowadays in British skies as part of the Pathway de France team, as far as air shows are concerned. But a pretty old design, but one that remains very capable as a trainer, not least for France's Armée de l'Air. And not least with the unit that provided this aircraft, the École de l'Aviation de Chasse 314 at Tours Saint-Symphorien, and that in the hands of Captain Jean-Philippe Tanguy was the Dassault Dornier Alphajet E.
And after that magnificent display, as he comes past, do please give him a wave. All the pilots can't see you, by the way. They may seem a little way off, but they do love to see a response, and as I say, working jolly hard to provide you with this afternoon's aerial entertainment. So whatever you've got in your hands there, I know a lot of you with cameras, but if you've got a hat or an umbrella, just give him a big wave. That was absolutely to have here. A lot of disparate action coming your way very soon, and different aircraft too. We're going to head back in time very soon to see the Percival Pembroke, and then we'll be featuring shortly after that the Global Stars. Very warm welcome to you if you've arrived a little later than most. It's lovely to see the airfields filling up so strongly now, and the weather perfectly timed for your visit to this first day at the Scampton Airshow. And do please become familiar with the whole airfields and the show area. Once you do pick up a brochure, it's £7. It's got all the detail you need for the activities in the various zones, visits to the heritage